good evening. Today we're going to be talking about ministry. My name is Idani Hidalgo, and I am given our weekly youth lesson. And specifically, today we're focused on Jesus' thoughts in Matthew 20 on ministry and what it looks like. We're going to be focusing on the following verse. It is Matthew 20, 27, and 28, as you can read. It says, "And whoever wants to be first must be your slave, even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life for ransom for many." So pretty much these verses say that if you want to be somebody that's important in the kingdom, you have to serve. Jesus gained his place by serving us, and so he called his disciples, those that want to serve him, to also do the same. And I encourage you, as we're going through this lesson, please leave me your comments, any thoughts, even answer some of the questions. I would enjoy listening and to your comments. If you decide to even send me a video, or reading your comments at the bottom of this video as well. So our core verse, which I encourage you to memorize as well, is Matthew 20, 27 to 28. I mentioned that we're going to be focusing specifically on Matthew 20. We're going to be talking about verses 20 to 28. In these verses, we actually find, as y'all can see on the side, I have some key figures that we find in this passage. And the first person is Salome, which is the mom of John and James. These are two brothers. And this mom decides to come to Jesus and tell him, "I want you to put my two children, John and James, at your right and your left hand in your kingdom." So she was trying to secure them a special place in the kingdom of heaven. And the disciples decide that they're very frustrated at the situation, and obviously not so much blame their mother, but them as the instigators of this conversation. And this is in Matthew 20, 27 to 28. This is what Jesus responds to this whole scenario. He pretty much says, if you want to be considered as high in the kingdom, you have to serve. That's what I am calling you to do, to serve me. And we can see that verse again here, Matthew 20, 27 and 28. "And whoever wants to be," he says, "first must be your slave. And even as he himself, being the Son of God, came to serve, we must also serve." And he gave himself for all of us. How much more us as humans, we should be willing to serve other people if even God himself decided to come down and serve us. Our core concept is God desires for each of his people to be a servant. So if you, and this is kind of what we've been talking over the last few weeks, this whole idea of I have a purpose, I have a calling in my life. If there's anything we are all called to do, is to serve other people. And that was the ministry of Christ. He served as he lived here on earth. He healed the sick. He provided food. He provided spiritual as well as physical food. He taught. He spent time with a multitude of individuals, from children to adults, women and men. He was not somebody who had prejudice in his heart. Recently, I've been seeing a lot of videos, just been interested in World War II and that whole Nazi movement and all the anti-Semitism that arose during that time period. Jesus was not that kind of individual. He was not like Hitler, who arose and believed that there was this one special race or man and he needed to eradicate everybody else. But on the contrary, Jesus came and he gave a message of acceptance and love. Hey, you want purpose, you want a calling in your life. He opened that up for each one of us and he showed us what it looks like. It looks like a ministry where men, women are counted in it, where children are considered first among us, where the servant is considered higher than those in high positions, in political positions, where God really calls us to get into the trenches and get dirty and not just be in positions of power and pretend like we're making a difference, but actually making a difference in people's lives. And that's really what we're all called for. And I have an activity, and you may even go ahead and write answers right now while I'm giving this lesson. And if you decide to write something down, I will make sure to comment on it. But I'd like you to write 5 skills or talents that you have. I went ahead and wrote 5 skills or talents that I consider that I have, but I'd like each and every one of you to take the time to write those 5 talents, 5 skills, and send them to me. It can either be through a text or go ahead and comment on Facebook, YouTube. You can do it even through an email, whichever you prefer, and go ahead and send me those talents and gifts that you have. Why is this so important? Because as we're talking about who we are in Christ and our purpose and our calling, you have to know what makes you unique and what makes you special in the kingdom. And so I've included a list here, as you all can see. And this is my list of 5 talents and skills. The first one is listening. At a very young age, I realized I am a better listener than I am a talker. And I actually enjoy listening. Reading as well, and academics. A lot of these, I'm a bookworm. I like studying and learning, and you can really see it in these skills and talents. I'm able to focus, and then introspection. I am a person that loves to evaluate life, what happens, what's going on, and I love thinking about it, processing it. I didn't include another one that I considered adding to the list, which is planning as well. And they all kind of go well for the areas that I serve in currently in ministry, whether it's ministry through medicine, through medicine in other countries, or mission work, or within the congregation as well. All these skills are useful, especially when you're counseling somebody. To be a listener is so important. And a lot of people actually prefer somebody who will not interrupt them and will just listen to them. I particularly find this true right now as this whole coronavirus craziness is going on. I've had so many people just want to have somebody to talk to. I realize how many people, how many patients, that's all they really want. They, more than the medicine, more than the treatment, they're like, you are my contact to other people. And I've just, a lot of the times right now, I'm just sitting there and listening to them tell me about their life, what's going on, show me their pet. So it works wonderfully in that ministry. So you are also talented, and you have gifts that God's given you, and those things that are precious that only He's provided to you. Some of you are great talkers, and that is wonderful. You need that, particularly if you're in a public speaking engagements. For example, if you work in politics, if you're called to do some type of leadership role, you need that ability as well to be a good communicator. But it's important, in order for you to land at the right area where you're going to be serving, is for you to really contemplate those skills that you have that are unique for you. And then I have some questions, and these questions are related to what we're talking about. Other than the disciples, who are the greatest Christians of all time in your mind and why? So we talked about the disciples, we talked about John, James, and you can think about the other disciples like Peter. But outside of that list, who are some great Christians in the Bible or even outside of the Bible that you may know? For example, Catherine Kuhlman is one of our most modern. She passed away already, but she's one of the most modern Christians that I can think of. In the Bible, I can think of Deborah, as well as Paul. Paul definitely is a high one on my list because he wrote so many of the New Testament books. It's such a surprise to the day, I think, the fact that he didn't actually meet Jesus in person just because of the ministry that he had. It was just so powerful. Esther is another one. She was a courageous woman that decided to be fierce and not buckle under stress, but decide to serve God through difficult moments. You can also think of Joseph as well. Mary, such a strong woman also to deliver Jesus and become the mother of our Savior as well. And she was young and took probably the criticism of so many people around her as well. So those are just a list of a few of the characters. You may also consider David, Abraham. Those are all great Christians. Luis Palau, as a more contemporary Christian, that gives us an example of what we should become in Christ and the way we should serve. But I'd like you to come up with a list as well and go ahead and send it to me or write it here on Facebook as well. Question number 2 is, what Christians do you know that serve as a model of ministry for you? So who in your family, in your life, in the church, do you know that serves as a model? So taking it from the biblical perspective, now taking it home a little bit closer, who do I know that I can emulate and I can use as an example of service, of somebody who loves Christ? And I encourage you to find those people in your life. I definitely have plenty of those individuals in my life, such as my parents, my siblings, my sister-in-law. They're all examples of people who serve in their own way and who have their wide range of talents, and they're very unique and serve according to those talents. And I think that's what's so amazing about serving Christ, like knowing that none of us are the same and we don't have to be the same, that God actually called us to be different and unique, and we can serve in that uniqueness. Question number 3 is, how has God uniquely gifted you to serve other people? So we talked about creating that list of skills and talents. How do we use that list to kind of determine how has God called you to serve other people? So depending on your gifts and talents, that's what's going to help you guide you to how you're going to serve God. The way I serve God will not be the way you serve God, because everyone is different. And even if I compare myself to other physicians who serve God and love God, and there's a plenty out there that I know who also serve God through medicine, I can honestly say the way I am is unique and different than the way other physicians are. And so for you, the way you are is going to definitely be unique. Some of you will serve God. I've seen people serve God through art. They're great artists. I can think of one man specifically, such a great artist, and every piece of art is so well done and so spiritual. It takes you to another realm. Some people serve God through public speaking, through media. Some do it through the news. So there's so many ways of doing it. Others by working at a nonprofit organization, such as a church or a different type of like a hospital or even nonprofits for women who are battered. So those are all ways of serving God. And I encourage you to list those gifts, those talents, those things that God has placed in your life, and those can guide you, especially when you're young. When we're talking about, and I know that most of you who are going to be listening to this are between the ages of like 11, 12 to your 20s. And this is such a time period of growth and discovery. So if you want a way to help you discover where am I going and where do I need to go, it starts by looking at who you are and those talents that God has placed in your life. And action plan. How do you plan and to think and act differently? So how do you, having learned this lesson, having learned the way Jesus served, so remember, he says you have to be a servant in order to really practice ministry. It's not about who has the most power or who is the one who kind of takes control of the situation, but it's the one who sometimes is hidden in the corner and is serving. That's the one God is paying attention to, and that's who we need to seek to be, those servers, those people who are willing to serve at the table and give of ourselves, not really calling attention to who we are, but calling attention to who God is in us. And I have this final reflection here, and it says, serving others was the whole point of Jesus's life and ministry, and anyone who follows him must do the same. So you may ask, what do I do as a Christian? Your calling is to serve. That's it. That's simple. Not complicated. I think a lot of times we complicate it, trying to create plans and deciding and what am I supposed to do with my life. But it's simple. Just serve God. Serve God in any area he has placed you, and use the talents and gifts he's given you. Some of you know how to sing. Some of you know how to play an instrument. Those are all talents and gifts God has given you. And our final question is, how are you using the gifts and talents God has given you to serve others? So how are you using that? Those special talents, those things God has provided you and given you, how are you specifically taking the time to serve those around you? Whether it's your family, whether it's loved ones, friends, at work. There's so many places we can serve others. I want you to really think about it and think about Jesus' example for us. I'm going to ask y'all to continue following us on Facebook at Príncipe de Paz USA. You can also follow us on YouTube at Idani Hidalgo Gomez. You will also see our videos there. And I wanted to announce as well, we are going to be heading back to our services in the temple as well. I imagine that we're still going to also be doing the services, or you're going to be able to see the services online as well. But I encourage you to join us on Saturdays at 6, on Sundays at 9 a.m., especially if you're above the age of 50 with your family. That service has been made specifically to protect you, or if you have like a immunocompromising condition, that's also a good service to attend to. So anything that might increase your risk for illness, you can also attend that service. We will also be having a service at 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. So encourage you to attend our weekend services starting this weekend. We will be practicing social distancing as well as hand hygiene. So I encourage you to feel comfortable to come, and may God bless you. May you have a good rest of the week. I'm praying for each one of you, and I look forward to seeing you in person this weekend. So God bless, and have a good one. Bye, y'all.